Great, I'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, a deep dive into Fairtrade certification for cocoa. As part of our World Fair Trade Day celebrations, we're hosting webinars like this one for businesses interested in learning more about Fairtrade certification. We also have a campaign starting this week on social media. So make sure to follow us on Instagram at @FairTrademarkUS to see the buzz we're creating to celebrate and grow awareness around the fair trade movement. I'm Abby Massey, Senior Commercial Partnership Strategist at Fairtrade America, and I'll be your host today. Today, we'll cover issues that cocoa farmers and farming communities face, as well as the work of Fairtrade International. You'll also learn what the steps to certification are and the impact of being certified. We'll end with time for question and answer. We trust that this is the first of many conversations in your fair trade journey. Today, in addition to me, you'll be hearing from Duomor Boahin, cocoa farmer and social compliance leader of the Asunafo Cooperative Union in Ghana, as well as Tanya Kamowitz, certification manager at FlowCert. Fairtrade America is the U.S. representative of Fairtrade International. We work with brands, consumers, nonprofits, and governments to advocate for better trading conditions for farmers and workers. We're 501c3 and based in Washington, D.C. Our vision is a world in which all producers can enjoy secure and sustainable livelihoods, fulfill their potential, and decide on their future. Fairtrade acknowledges that poverty is the root cause of most sustainability issues. When the majority of people living in rural areas in developing countries live on less than $2 a day, it's no wonder that issues like child labor, deforestation, and malnutrition occur. And in fact, the average West African cocoa farmer lives on less than $1 a day, which does make them more susceptible to sustainability threats. In cocoa farming, the largest risks caused by poverty are child labor and deforestation. On top of all of this, our modern trade system leans on farmers to produce goods for low prices that are subject to market volatility, which makes it difficult for them to plan and keep up with rising costs of production and just rising costs of living with inflation. In cocoa, deforestation is a huge environmental risk, and farmers are also feeling the effects of climate change that are impacting farmers' yields, and pests and diseases are also increasingly threatening. Child labor and forced labor are also an issue in cocoa supply chains, as I mentioned. All of this contributes to increased risks for farmers who are beholden to unfair trading conditions from traders and large actors. But fair trade works to put farmers at the center of everything we do to address these risks. Fair trade sets a minimum price for each commodity so that producers are not susceptible to that price volatility. And there's a premium that producers receive on top of the amount that they get for their products. Producer organizations then get to democratically decide how they use that premium, whether it's infrastructure, additional income, or even community investments like schools or community centers. A study completed in 2021 in Côte d'Ivoire found that when farmers sell cocoa on fair trade terms, their household income rises by 9%. That's a huge safety net. Fairtrade also collaborates with producers and industry actors to set standards. The standards follow social, economic, and environmental practices. Fairtrade cocoa farmers can't, for example, cut down local forests or use dangerous herbicides and pesticides. There are new cocoa standards in place that also require producer organizations to have child labor remediation plans in place because they're the ones that know what their community and producers need in the face of child labor. Because this will require additional work and investment on the part of the producer organizations, Fairtrade is committing $500,000 to producer organizations to help them build those remediation systems. And finally, Fairtrade implements programs that are designed to strengthen the producer organizations and provide them with more leverage in trade. So on the screen are a variety of the standards that Fairtrade has set in cocoa. They, like I said on the last slide, they do follow social, environmental, and economic standards. So in addition to what I just mentioned, workers are able to organize. There's democratic decision-making is required on the producer organization level. The use of GMOs and pesticides is not allowed. And there's also an incentive for cocoa or organic cocoa cultivation. And of course, there is a non-negotiable premium for community projects. Businesses are audited against these standards by our independent third-party certifier, FlowCert. Fairtrade only works with one certifier, and that is specifically to maintain rigorous best-in-class certification. Fairtrade also has exclusive access to premium use data from FlowCert. So Fairtrade is a global system. We have over 25 offices around the globe working to expand markets for Fairtrade producers. So those are offices like Fairtrade America in the US. There's over 260 people focused on supporting producers on the ground, and that's via producer networks. We have 3 producer networks, and one is in Latin America, one is in Africa, and one is in Asia. So Fairtrade's top producing countries are Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Dominican Republic, and Peru. 70% of all Fairtrade cocoa is coming from Cote d'Ivoire, while interestingly, 95% of organic cocoa is coming from Latin America. However, on average, 25% of Fairtrade cocoa that is produced is sold on Fairtrade terms. So there is plenty of Fairtrade cocoa supply for brands interested in transitioning to Fairtrade. Just to give you a little more sense of what Fairtrade cocoa looks like when it comes to the producers, there's 417 cocoa producer organizations, which accounts for over 440,000 cocoa farmers. A little over, or almost 33,000 of those farmers are women. So one of the unique aspects of Fairtrade is our deep connection to producers in the system. I am so excited to give a warm welcome to Duomor Buohin, calling all the way from Ghana. He is a cocoa farmer and social compliance leader of the Asunafo Cooperative Union in Ghana. Take it away, Duomor.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yeah, so can I take over?
Yes.
All right, thank you for this great opportunity. First of all, I'll start on the problems farmers are facing in this country. Our first problem is the climate change. But as of now, farmers, they can't predict the climate. It don't rain on time. And also, if it rains, the rain is not enough for us. At times, it leads to drought, and drought is a threat to the life rate of the seedlings and then the older cocoa trees. And also, the climate change has also affected our cocoa farms, especially during the rain seasons. In fact, when it rains continuously in a certain period of time, in a certain time, it causes black pod disease. And also, if it did not rain on time, it causes the cocoa pods to grow prematurely, of which it affects the yield the farmer will get from his cocoa farm. In fact, if the farmer did not take care, he will lose more than 50% of the cocoa pulse. And if the farmer or we, the farmers, we want to fight against this problem, unless we invest more in labor and also in agrochemicals, and it is not easy for us here at all in terms of fighting against these problems. Another problem farmers are facing now is the low price. In fact, you can bear with me that everyday price of goods, that's agrochemicals, increase. Price of services also increase. Price of transportation also increase, because in our country now, every day they increase the price of fuel, and it affects transportation and everything in this country. And the cocoa price is always standstill. So this is also affect we the farmers. In fact, majority of we the farmers base mainly on the cocoa proceed. And they use this same cocoa proceed to pay school fees, to pay hospital bills, and also dairy activities. At the end of the day, the farmer will go to the house without having nothing on his hands. Also, another problem we the farmers are facing here in Ghana is the illegal mining. Hello, can I continue?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, please
Okay.
do. I think, yeah, sorry for the interruption. I think Emily put something in the chat, but
Okay,
go
thank
on.
you. Thank you. So another problem we the farmers are facing here now is illegal mining. In fact, there are some uncultivated lands we the farmers have decided to use to expand our cocoa farms. But these illegal miners are destroying this land. They even move to the extent that they come into the cocoa farms and destroy some of our cocoa trees for illegal mining. And one dangerous thing about this issue is that if the farmer did not take care, the farmer will fall into the pit they have digged. In fact, it is very, very dangerous, and at the end of the day, the farmer will lose his or her life. Another problem we, the farmers, are facing here again is the deforestation. Illegal chainsaw operators are always cutting down trees in the forest, of which it redirects the pests into our cocoa farms. And when they come to the cocoa farm, they come and destroy this our cocoa farms. And also, in fact, they are disturbing us a lot. And if a farmer wants to fight against this one, unless the farmer invests more in this cocoa farm before getting the back what he wants. What Fairtrade is doing to help us to solve this problem, one is the introduction of agroforest projects. Fairtrade help farmers, need the farmers to get access to quality seedlings, which can withstand the weather. And also, they have been teaching us a lot on how to make sure our farms are very good, so that if the weather is good or not, our farms can withstand that weather. It's by the introduction of climate smart agriculture. Fairtrade has taught us that if you plant a cocoa seedlings, you shouldn't plant the seedlings alone. You should plant other trees, and even to the extent of planting cocoa yams and then plantains, which will give us food. Another thing Fairtrade is helping us is about the introduction of IGA, income generating activity. In fact, I am lucky to be a graduate from NORAD project. In fact, I was part of the Young Managers Academy School, and I am beneficiary of this project. Fairtrade, in collaboration with my cooperative, has helped me to set up a piggery farm, of which, although they are not yet, I have set it up. I can't sell them now, but I know that in some times to come, I'll get money from it. And Fairtrade is supporting this project a lot. In fact, so many of our farmers are benefiting from this project, especially ladies. So Fairtrade also helping us in this aspect. Fairtrade also help us to pay or to invest in our cocoa farms by giving us premium. But Fairtrade give us additional income apart from the main income government pay when we sell our cocoa beans. Fairtrade give us premium, of which this premium help us to invest in our cocoa farms and also help us to pay our children's school fees and a lot. So Fairtrade has also helped us in that aspect. Also, deforestation and illegal mining. Fairtrade has helped us to create awareness. Fairtrade, in collaboration with my cooperative, has helped us to create awareness and also call policymakers, government, influential people to come on board to make sure the laws are enforced. So that is what Fairtrade is also doing to help we, the cocoa farmers, in terms of fighting against LMC and then illegal chainsaw operators. Fairtrade certification, me in my community, we first registered as a cooperative, and then we joined as Asonafo North Cocoa Farmers Cooperative Union. Asonafo North Cocoa Farmers Cooperative Union then applied to Fairtrade, and we passed through a series of training. 1 year later, an auditor came and audited us. We were lucky to pass the audit, and from then, we were able to sell our cocoa beans on fair trade terms. What Fairtrade is doing for our communities, the best thing we cannot forget about what Fairtrade is doing for us is one, training. Fairtrade has given us so many trainings. In fact, Fairtrade has taught us a lot. The topics of some of the trainings are child protection, human rights and rights specific to women. In fact, this has helped the farmers. We can now decide for ourselves, and also we are independent. With Fairtrade, life is good. In fact, Fairtrade has also another thing Fairtrade is helping our communities also is that Fairtrade partners have long-term agreements with us, and this helps us to plan other activities that will improve the life of our farmers. Another thing Fairtrade is doing in our community is that Fairtrade, in collaboration with Asonafo North Cocoa Farmers Cooperative, are building school blocks, that's school blocks, providing school fees, providing school uniforms to the needy children, and this also helping us. In fact, my community has benefited from this thing I am talking about. In fact, we are having a borehole in our community, and it was not functioning. With the help of Fairtrade, in Fairtrade, you have something like community development project. Our community was able to use that community development project fund to help the community to fix up the borehole. Now we are able to get access to good water. So Fairtrade is doing a lot for us, for farmers, and for the community Fairtrade is operating. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wilmore. That was really helpful to hear both all of the challenges that you as a cocoa farmer are facing, as well as your community. And then also some of the ways that being a part of the Fairtrade system, are supporting to address those challenges. And I love
Okay.
it when you were talking about training, lots of training.
Yeah.
So everyone, one more, hopefully you can hang around for the rest of the call. Everyone, if you have questions for him, please put them in the chat box, in the Q&A box, so that at the end of the call, we'll save time for some questions. But thank you so much for sharing, Dwomor. It was really helpful to hear your experiences and what's going on on the ground with you. So next, now that you've heard more about the Fairtrade International system, as well as what we do, and you've heard from Dwomor about his experiences, I'd like to shift to talk a little bit about certification. So in this next section, we'll talk about how you can get certified to make claims around fair trade and use the Fairtrade mark. So if you're sourcing fair trade ingredients, there are, Emily, there's a little, a box, there you go. Just wanted to make sure everyone could see the full slide. So if you're sourcing, thank you. If you're sourcing fair trade ingredients, there's 2 programs that you can participate in. The first is the All That Can Be program. So that means that all of the ingredients in your product that can be fair trade are fair trade. If you choose to participate in this program, the mark that you see on the left of the screen would be the one that you would put on your product. The second program is called the Fairtrade Sourced Ingredient Program. And this was a program that was developed in order to give businesses more access to the fair trade system, even if all of the ingredients in your product, even if you're not able to make sure that all the ingredients in your product are fair trade. So just one ingredient in your product needs to be fair trade. We do have a mark for 23 ingredients, though, of course, our most popular FSI mark is cocoa, and that's what we're talking about today. So that would be the mark that you would use if you just had fair trade cocoa in your product. Once you do decide to move forward with fair trade certification, my team at Fairtrade America would work with you to confirm that your supply chain is fair trade. So if you have suppliers that are not fair trade, we can suggest those who are, and we can also help get your existing suppliers certified. So we work with you to figure out what the best next steps would be. You'll then work with FlowCert to get certified, and you'll have a certification application alongside certification fees. Tanya will dig into this a little bit deeper next. Once you have your permission to trade from FlowCert, our team at Fairtrade America will work with you to finalize the use of the Fairtrade mark on your packages. And when you do have products to sell into market with the Fairtrade mark, our team will be there to promote your certification as well as support you in talking about fair trade. So now we'll hear from Tanya Kamowitz, who is the certification manager from FlowCert, to learn more about the steps to fair trade certification.
Hi, let me just share my screen. Well, hello, my name is Tanya Kamowitz. I'm a certification manager at FlowCert in the Costa Rica office, where we handle all the Americas certification, all the way from Canada, Caribbean, down to South America. I'm going to walk you a bit through the fair trade certification process that we do at FlowCert. And I'm mostly going to show you a few highlights and refer you to where you can find further information, because it can be a little bit overwhelming if I try to explain everything here. So FlowCert is Fairtrade International's exclusive certification body. And what we do is we do the certification of all of the supply chain for Fairtrade products. And this is important that we do only Fairtrade International standards. For more information about Flowcert, please visit our website, flowcert.net. And you'll see throughout the presentation that for different information, I will refer you either to the Flowcert website or to the Fairtrade International website. We are an independent and impartial certification body. At this point, that we do our certification process in 3 simple steps. One is where you start applying. Then our Flowcert auditors do the audits, and then our analysts, mostly here in the Costa Rica office, will take care of the audit report review process, and we will make the certification decision. I'm including a link to a video where you can see a bit more about these 3 steps. It's a bit less than 3 minutes. Get started, I would invite you to go to the Flowcert website, and on the first page, you'll see this Get Started button, where it will take you to a brief questionnaire, where I invite you also to open this little tag here so that you can see a bit of the general information, 10 important application facts that could be very useful in your process of applying. Here, for example, you'll have a link to our cost calculator, which is a common question that we receive. This is the very brief form to fill out. You would mark Fairtrade certification, just these few elements. Then you would click on submit, and it would refer you to our application specialist at Flowcert. And then this person would send you an application questionnaire, and then you'd already be in touch to ask any questions that you may have for the application process. Basically, it consists of sending the questionnaire, sending us back the certification contract signed. Then the application fee would have to be paid at this initial part, and we would need some documentation to show the legal registration of the company. Once we receive this, if this information is complete, then the process goes actually really fast. And then you would receive a link to our initial training course so that you're not too lost in our process. And you would be receiving a permission to trade Fairtrade International products. So you'll see that the application process is actually pretty fast. It depends a lot on the information being complete in the questionnaire. Regarding how we audit the supply chain, we work mostly with freelance auditors throughout the globe, and this makes it much easier to do our on-site visits as well. Our audits can be either on-site or remote or digital. And for most of our audits, we will announce them to you with 1 month in advance. So the auditor would coordinate directly with you. And on average, these audits normally take about 1 day. On average, meaning if it's just one product and no additional entities and that's the case most of the time. Here, I'm just going to refer you to where you can find the standards that we will be auditing. We're going to make sure in our audits to verify the compliance of the standards. And you would see, for example, the trader standard would apply to traders companies in North America. And then for cocoa specifically, then we would invite you to visit the cocoa specific standards, product standards. One thing to highlight here, if the trader standard is for general requirements, we do verify that the supply chain is with Fairtrade International specifically, and that the whole supply chain is certified by Flowcert. So that is something to keep in mind. Regarding the price and premium payment, which is what we're also auditing and is a key part of our system, mostly for the premium that goes back to be invested in the producer organizations. We verify this, and the information can be found here as well on the Fairtrade website and the standards in this bottom button that says minimum price and premium info. Basically, what we want to make sure is that the producers are at least being able to cover their production costs, and that on top they're receiving premium payment for their development projects. Give you an example of what it looks like in this minimum fair trade price section. You would go to the button that I highlighted earlier, enter here the product you're searching for, and here you can find some general information regarding the minimum price, depending on the origin, the form of the product, and so on. And then in the cocoa specific standards, you'd find additional information that refers to cocoa. For example, the conversion rates that we use, for example, in mass balance. So there is a lot of very important information in the cocoa specific standards document. In terms of auditing the Fairtrade premium, that to make sure that it gets to the producer, we verify this at the exporter or importer level, and we also cross-check with the producers. So this will depend on who is in the contracts the responsible party for paying the minimum price and premium. After we do these audits, then this is some general timelines that can maybe serve as a reference of what happens. We receive the audit report, then we'll confirm, our analyst will confirm the results, and we'll guide you through the process of, if there is, for example, a nonconformity identified, then the analyst would guide you through corrective measures, presenting objective evidence, and then finally a certification decision would be made. So this is, again, just an overview of the times, but you'll be able to find more information in our manual, which includes the rules and guidelines. And as a certified body as well, we are very careful of following our procedures and it all being very transparent. So I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. In terms of fees, because we know often this is a common question many have, our application fee is 565 euros. Then our initial or annual fee are all in fees. So that includes the cost of the audit. And then for what it would cost for that fee, generally, we invite you to go to the cost calculator, which you'll see is here, and it will guide you through a few key questions to get the answer based on your specific circumstances. This is where you can find the manual. It's on the Flowcert website. Again, on the main page, you'll find this button, and that will show you the whole process. And with the index, it'll be easy to guide you to where you need to go. In addition to our Fairtrade certificate, we also can provide some additional services. We have customized assurance services for our existing Flowcert customers. So if you're certified with Fairtrade International, then we can also offer you some additional services. And for example, we do also audit for EDGE and other specific social audits. Mostly we're focused on customers that are already working with the Fairtrade International system. So that is the general overview. And again, I'll be around for questions towards the end. And if you want more information about the application process, here is the email to reach out to, america@flowcert.net. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I always learn so much when I hear anyone from Flowcert speak. I know I said that yesterday and I'll say it again today. Really helpful to have your expertise here. As Tanya mentioned, please put any questions you have for her in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those at the end of the call. So to close today, I'll share how Fairtrade is gaining momentum in the US and how this growth is deepening impact for farming communities. So we have a growing community of brands in the United States. There are about 150 brands being sold in the US and over 5,000 licensed products for sale in the US. Some of our notable brands are visible on the map, but of course, there are many more. And when you partner with Fairtrade America, not only are you paying the minimum price and premium for your ingredients, but your contribution that goes towards licensing the Fairtrade mark is invested back into the Fairtrade International system for programming for producer organizations. And this includes training and also support in meeting the Fairtrade standards. This reinvestment is a unique aspect in the Fairtrade International system. The fees are also directed towards consumer education programs like Fairtrade Month that happens all month in October, as well as marketing support for brand partners to increase consumer awareness of Fairtrade in the United States. And we can tell that our dedication to building awareness is working, which in turn is growing impact for farming communities around the world. On the screen is data from our 2021 GlobeScan study. And GlobeScan is a third-party researcher that we work with to determine consumer perceptions of fair trade. And we do this research every 2 years. So in 2021, 41% of shoppers recognized the Fair Trade International mark. And that had increased from 28% in 2019. So we saw quite a bit of growth between those 2 years. 57% of consumers trust the Fair Trade mark. And among those who are familiar with it, 85% trust the mark. And 78% of fair trade shoppers would recommend fair trade to a friend or colleague. As I mentioned, we do conduct this research every 2 years, so we're just starting to receive data from our 2023 GlobeScan study. And I'm really excited to share with all of you that it shows another significant jump in awareness in the United States market, very similar to this 2019 to 2021 jump. We'll be sharing a detailed report in September with the results of this research, as well as another webinar. So we hope you can join. We'll be sending you all the invitation to that. So the growth in brand partners in the United States and of course around the world has made fair trade programs possible. Through the producer networks, Fairtrade has implemented more than 150 programs addressing climate change, promoting gender equity, and supporting capacity building among producer organizations. One example of these programs is the West Africa Cocoa Program. This was first launched in 2016, and it works with producer organizations to build strong internal management as well as strong financial management systems. Fairtrade has seen that when a small-scale producer organization is strong and resilient, it's more responsive to their members' needs, and that means that they're better able to manage risks for themselves as well as for their partners. So as you can see on the screen, in 2020 alone, over 161,000 producer organization members and managers attended the trainings, and a quarter of those were women. So this program is reaching thousands of people in the fair trade system. And this program has also been a springboard for other fair trade programs when it comes to deforestation and gender equity that I'll talk about in a minute. So one small producer organization in Côte d'Ivoire shared that the SPO has become stronger as a result of the training received, which has focused on the organization and management of the SPO, standards, food safety, good agriculture practices, and community life. So really, this program is all-encompassing and strengthens small producer organizations. Fairtrade is also working to equip farmers with, and equip cocoa farmers specifically, with the technology they need to map their farms to address deforestation and also just better manage their businesses in general. Fairtrade recognizes that data is power. So we're partnering with the Earthworm Foundation to monitor deforestation on farms in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. The data will be made, or already is made, directly available to producer organizations in those countries. We had an initial pilot of this program last year where 29,000 farms were involved, and this year it'll be scaled up to 280,000 farms. And by the end of 2025, all of the cocoa farmers in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire will be involved. So this is a huge program, and it's immensely important that farmers have access to this data to meet the new regulations that are coming out of the EU that have to do with deforestation. We're also partnering with Farm Force to disperse a software package for farmers to help them digitally map their farms. And that's the picture that you see on the screen is what they'll see with Farm Force. And it should help with assisting with risk management on their farms for deforestation. And the software will also help farms as well as producer organizations manage in general. The thinking here is that it'll help producer organizations be better business partners to their commercial partners and helpfully grow their market and meet the stringent standards coming out of the EU. And the last program I'll talk about is the Women's School of Leadership, which is a flagship Fairtrade program that brings together farmers for a year of training. So women are provided with mentors and coaching to strengthen their leadership, project management, and negotiation skills. There's also a huge emphasis on income diversification, which builds resilience as well as food security. What's exciting about this program is that participants go back to their organizations and communities as entrepreneurs and leaders. So you'll see on the screen, we have that by 2023, the Women's School of Leadership will have 296 graduates, but outreach over to 14,000. So there's a ripple effect with the participants going back to their communities and sharing what they've learned and being leaders. This has been such a successful program that has been implemented with 61 producer organizations in 16 countries. So it's gone beyond cocoa, and there's Women's School of Leadership programs in a variety of commodities around the world. It has been incredibly impactful. And the words of two graduates are here on the screen. Julian Asoko, who is a cocoa producer from Cote d'Ivoire, said, "My vision changed. I realized how much I could do for my cooperative." And Rosine Becoen, who's a cocoa farmer and secretary of the Women's Society at Kayat, said, "I'm afraid of nothing because I know how to manage my money. I am stronger. I am a leader of many people now and know I can do things on my own." Thank you so much for being here and attending the webinar to learn more about Fairtrade International and the work that we do. We would love to hear your questions. So take a moment. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And we have Tanya and Dwomor here, as well as myself, to answer anything that may come to mind. So I'm going to start with one for Dwomor and Tanya. Dwomor, you can go first and then Tanya follow. But what advice do you have for brands that are thinking about certifying their supply chain? We can see you, Dwomor, but you're on mute. You're on mute, Dwomor. Okay, we can't hear you. I wonder if we can unmute him.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, we can hear you now. Would it be helpful for me to ask the question again?
I learned you were asking a question.
Yes. What advice do you have for brands that are thinking about certifying their supply chain with Fairtrade?
Advice I will give to One thing is that if someone wants to use the Fairtrade logo, Fairtrade, we have some principles that we must follow before someone can use Fairtrade logo to sell his or her products. For instance, there are some things we have to work with. In fact, if you come to Fairtrade farms, the farmer must protect the child. That is, the farmer must stop child labor. Also, in Fairtrade communities, democratic have to be our hallmark. And also, everybody must be equal before the law or any activity we do here.
Thank you. Tanya, do you have any thoughts on that?
I would recommend visiting and seeing what the standards are and seeing also what the compliance criteria are, and just doing a quick verification to see where you fall under your current compliance. And if you are already en route and it seems like you're good to go, then I would definitely say start the process as soon as you can, and join the system, and you'll be guided to make it start trading as fair as soon as possible. If you do see that there are a few things that you're not currently complying with, then it may take a few months or a few weeks, depending on what the issue may be. So the sooner you start, the better, just because the list of specific compliance criteria can sometimes be very detailed, and some people may have most things, but not all. So definitely the sooner you can start checking that out, I would say the better.
Good advice, Tanya. I agree. We do have some folks come to us when there's not a lot of lead time, and we're happy to work with you always, but it is good to start when you have more time and not when you're in a rush, so that we can do the due diligence that we need. We have had a question come in. If we intend to use Fairtrade cocoa, do we need to be verified before using the Fairtrade logo? And the answer would be yes, for sure.
Yes.
So you would need to source, if you're going to source Fairtrade cocoa, you would need to get certified yourself with Flowcert in the way that Tanya described. And then you would work with us to put the Fairtrade mark on Fairtrade America, to put the mark on your product.
Yeah, if I may add, for a product to be considered Fairtrade product, it means that the whole supply chain was Fairtrade certified. Otherwise, the product cannot be considered or is not considered a Fairtrade product.
Great. Yes, that is a helpful addition. I have another question about payment. Hopefully I'm going to ask it properly, but can folks begin the application process before and take a little bit of time on it before they submit their payment? Can you talk a little bit about that, the timeline of all of that again?
Right. So once you submit the survey, the applications process will send you the questionnaire and will send you the invoice. You have to pay it once you're ready to submit the invoice. To submit the questionnaire. So as long as you don't submit the questionnaire, the invoice wouldn't have to be paid necessarily. So you would have plenty of time to work with the questionnaire. And it would be once you make the payment, then the process starts, and yeah, then the clock sort of starts ticking, but it's not a very strict timeline.
So a question came in, I think for Dwomar.
Okay.
Not to talk too much at length about it, but can you tell a little bit about the cocoa processing, the steps, and what you do there?
Like how you process the cocoa. That's it. Yeah. You know, one thing is that you first go harvest the cocoa, you ferment it, you dry it, and then you sell it.
Great, quick and easy, right? It's very quick. I'm just kidding.
Did you get me?
Yeah, I did.
He was asking about how we process the cocoa,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, we harvest the cocoa. We ferment it. After that, we dry it and then we sell them.
Great, thank you. Tanya, I think we just have one last question and then we'll close out. But would love to hear just a little bit more detail on how you audit premium usage on farms.
How we use the premium in our farms. In fact, at the end of the season, Fairtrade will pay us premium. And we use some of the premium to invest in our cocoa farms. At times, the proceeds we get from our cocoa farm is not enough for us. As I said earlier on, we use some of the income we get from cocoa farm to pay our school fees, hospital-based and other activities. So when the premium comes, use some part of the premium to buy some of the agrochemicals and also the fuel we use to spray the cocoa farm.
Great, thank you, Dwamar.
Sorry, if I'll add a little bit in terms of how we audit the premium. So there's several elements that the producer organizations have to comply with when it comes to premium. So part of the, as Dwamar said earlier, the democracy is something very important within the fair trade system. So the organization has to choose as a group how they're going to invest the premium. So things that we verify is how were those decisions made, what is planned. There are some regulations in terms of, okay, at least a minimum, for example, has to go into improving quality and production. So we'll verify that the decision was made democratically, that there was a plan, that it was agreed upon before. Then we verify how it was used, that there's a good accounting system that is very transparent. And just we do a lot of cross-checking that, you know, the invoices are all there, that it's accurate, and that if, for example, if it's school that they're going to build, you know, we visit the school and look at all those documents. So there's a lot that we do on site and through interviews and through documentation.
So much that you do to make sure that the premium is that should be provided to producer organizations is, as well as how it's being spent. And Flowcert has a unique relationship with Fairtrade America in sharing the, you know, the top level premium use data as well. So thank you both for your question and answer. Oh,
sorry, if I may add, so that's in terms of premium use, but in terms of premium payment, we do have also the Fairtrade system, which is, for example, where all the supply chain has to enter the information of the amount that was paid, the amount that was received, and then there's, let's say, a virtual handshake saying, yes, I agree, that is actually what happened. And so that helps us also have data in terms of how much premium money has you know, trickled to the organizations through the system and the impact and all that. So we have multiple platforms as well to support this.
great. Thank you so much, Tanya. So we're gonna move on to close out the webinar. Thank you so much, Dwamar and Tanya, for answering all the questions that came through. So as you want to move forward with certification, or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. On the next slide, we have 2 next steps, not 3. Schedule a time to talk with me to talk about your unique supply chain needs. We can talk as much or as little as you want about your specific supply chain, but I would be happy to follow up with any of you to answer any questions you have. And also please feel free to get certified, to visit the Get Certified section of our website. There's a ton of information there for you to review. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today and your interest in fair trade. I hope that we can continue the conversation following this webinar. And again, thank you so much, Tanya and Duomore, for being here and providing your expertise. It was very helpful to hear from both of you. There's a poll to close out the webinar. So as you leave, please share your feedback. And thanks so much, everyone. Take care.